Hello, all of our RVAR and SOMLS members. I want to give everyone a quick update and rundown on what is going on with the NAR settlement in the Sitzer-Burnett trial and what it actually means for us, or what it may mean, as opposed to what you may have been reading or hearing through the rumor mill. So I want to start real quick with some errors in reporting that are just basically completely commonplace. I've seen this across the board. A lot of misinterpretation of what the settlement may mean and how the information is being disseminated. So I'm going to use one example real quick. I got sent a link to this article from a friend, and the headline says, "Home buyers and sellers to be spared standard broker commissions under $418 million settlement." My response to that is they got 2 out of 3 things in that headline wrong. I'm not going to say who posted the story, but the only thing that headline has right is that there's a settlement for $418 million. The idea that brokers are no longer going to have fees or commissions and the idea that anything has been standardized are both just outright wrong. And we need to be able to address those things articulately when people are asking us these questions. So yes, you as agents, I as an agent can still charge fees for our services. They're not magically disappearing. They haven't been made illegal. Those fees need to be discussed with our clients ahead of time. That's always been the case. That's how we should have been doing it. Locally, we're actually a step ahead of the competition with regards to our listing agreement. We have 2 separate lines, one that says total commission, one that says buyer's agent's commission. So that alone forced a conversation where it said, this is what we're offering the other agent. Hopefully you were having that conversation with your clients and you weren't just pre-filling it in. But that being said, there will still be commissions. This is just going to force us to have a slightly more candid conversation with our clients about what they are, how they're structured, why we have them. The other thing they got wrong is saying that consumers are going to be spared the standard fee. There is no standard fee. There has never been a standard fee. You may have a standard for your services. I may have a standard that says this is what I charge, and I don't want to negotiate on that. That's fine. What we mean when we say there's no standard is there is no industry standard fee that is set across the board that prevents consumers from shopping for services. That has never been the case. It will never be the case. There has been a common fee based on what the market will sustain, the same as every other industry. But that fee has never been standardized. And the word between standard and common is a very important difference. So if you're talking with someone about this, make sure they understand. If you have a standard, that's fine. There is no industry standard. Most of the reporting, if not all of the reporting I've seen, has gotten those points wrong. Not misconstrued or slightly confused. They're just wrong. And it's because it makes for a better headline, not because it's actually factual. So let's just get that out of the way. The reporting has not been accurate. And if you want to say that point blank to your friends and family and clients, I'm fine with that because that's what I'm telling mine. So let's talk about what actually happens if the settlement is approved. There's 4 things. First one, there will be a $418 million settlement. That's the one part most reporting has gotten correct. The second thing is that RVAR, SOMLS, almost all realtors, other than those associated with Home Services of America, and a lot of brokerages are all covered under the settlement. That means this takes the teeth out of the 24 copycat lawsuits that were around the country. Even if NAR had gone to appeal and won this case, it would have set a precedent for the other cases, but it would not have been a foregone conclusion. So we would have had dozens of copycat lawsuits going on across the country as other courts and other plaintiffs and defendants hashed through all of these details. So you cannot be sued for an antitrust violation based on this case. I cannot be sued for an antitrust violation based on this case if the settlement is approved. There were no antitrust violations committed, which we'll get to later, but it does cover us, which is a huge part of it. The next thing is it requires buyer representation agreements before you show a house. This was already becoming law in Oregon come January 25. This is accelerating the timeline a little bit. It's fine. People are freaked out about buyer representation agreements. There's no need to be. First off, the people freaking out are mostly realtors and agents, not consumers. They're okay with understanding that you're going to get paid for doing your work. To be totally frank with you, The only people who are stressed about it are more tenured agents who haven't had to do this for a long time. The newer agents don't know the difference. They have no problem having this conversation. What this does mean, though, is that you need to have a conversation with your clients about how much and when or how you get paid. That's a conversation, again, we should have been having anyway. If we weren't, now you have to, because if you just hand someone a piece of paper that says, here, give me X dollars, they're not likely to respond well to that. But if you can explain the structure of the fees, what they've commonly been, what they may look like, and what you're doing to earn that fee, that's fine. There's going to be plenty of training. Hopefully your own brokerages are offering resources on how to have that conversation, but you're going to have it. And the last thing is that it prohibits publishing a unilateral offer of compensation on the MLS. It does not prohibit offering a buyer agency commission the way we've done. It changes how it's communicated. To me, there's two big differences with the buyer rep agreement and the offer of compensation, both of which are good for us. It's a quick phone call to my buddy Chris. Hey Chris, I saw you have a new listing. I've got clients who are really interested in it, but they're probably not going to be able to cover the commission out of pocket. Are you guys offering a buyer's agency commission? And he's going to tell me yes or no. And on that same phone call, he's going to say, do you have a signed buyer representation agreement before we schedule this appointment? The same way on all my listings, I say, does your buyer have a pre-approval before I'm going to let a stranger walk through my seller's house? This is going to require an extra phone call, probably an extra couple pieces of paperwork, and some more in-depth conversations with our clients. It's not causing our industry or our businesses to completely implode. And there's nothing wrong with having candid conversations with clients and agents. I have said, since this all started, the issue is not our policy, the issue has been the practice. Our policy of having cooperative compensation is not an antitrust violation. Agents, hopefully none of us locally, did a very, very poor job of explaining that to their clients. And that's why we're in this situation. Don't be part of the problem by trying to avoid these conversations or explain them poorly. Make sure you understand what the changes are and how they may impact our businesses. Again, this does not make offering a buyer's agent's compensation illegal. It means we cannot publish it on the MLS. It's no longer a unilateral offer of compensation, which also is probably not that bad of a thing either. I won't get into the details on why, but it's okay that it's not unilateral. It just takes an extra phone call. However, there are 4 ways now where fees may get paid. You got your buyer and you have your seller. The buyer can pay their agent directly and the seller can pay their agent directly. Or the buyer can give proceeds to the seller. The seller may give them a concession, which the buyer uses to cover the buyer's agent fee, and then the seller covers the seller's agent's fee. You could also have it where the seller pays the buyer's agent and then pays the listing agent. Or you could have what we have now, where the seller gives a commission to the listing agent who then shares it with the buyer's agent. In all of these scenarios, one thing that's really important to keep in mind, if you have a little flow chart of all 4 people, every single transaction starts with money going from the buyer to the seller. We need to stop talking about, well, the seller pays the buyer's agent, the buyer's going to pay their own agent. No, they're not going to have to pay for their agent. All of this comes from the proceeds of a successful sale. If you sell a home for $500,000, the seller gets a check for $500,000. That money came from the buyer. Everyone's putting their money and their assets into a pool, and then we determine how that's divided with purchase price, with seller credit, with commissions, with concessions. It's all part of a transaction that doesn't come together without 2 successful parties. And that's how we need to be discussing this. That's not changed. That's how this has always been. We're shedding some light on it and we're clarifying it so people understand what's actually happening. And the last thing I really want to point out is that NAR, RVAR, OR, no one has admitted fault in this settlement. No one has said, you're right, we were doing something unethical or illegal, we'll change our practices. What we said is based on all the circumstances and all the variables that are going on, this settlement seems like the best option for us at this point that makes the most sense. NAR, and I personally, and hopefully all of you maintain, the structure that we have historically used is the best structure for consumers. There's a reason it's set up that way, and it's not because we've been taking advantage of consumers for the last 100 years. It's because it actually works and makes sense. That structure under this settlement may still exist. There are other options. Those options also currently exist. Again, what we're doing is having a better conversation about it, and we're making sure all of that is clearly understood. We're not saying, well, shoot, I guess buyer's agents don't get paid. I guess buyer's agents are going away. I guess it's not going to exist anymore. It's clarifying some conversations. So again, there is no standard fee. They're negotiable across the industry. Maybe not within your own practice, but across the industry, there is no standard fee. Buyer's agency commissions will not be published on the MLS. It doesn't mean they can't be offered. And buyer's rep agreements need to be signed before you go out showing houses with your buyers. Those are the changes that are coming. It's going to be a slight change in our conversations and a little bit of paperwork. And if we can focus on that and make sure we're explaining this in a way that actually makes sense and make sure we can advocate for whatever fees we charge, you're going to be okay. If you show up with a piece of paper that says, I don't know, you got to sign this, hopefully someone covers it, you're going to struggle. But if you know what you're worth, you know how you do your business, and you can prove that, you are going to make it through this and you're going to stay in business. We're putting together some FAQs for members. We're also putting together some talking points that you'll be able to share with friends, family, and clients who may have questions on this, and as well as this video. So when you're getting questions that you're not sure how to answer, or when you're on, God help me, the Facebook forums that are just the worst thing in the world right now, you can say, hey, here's a really quick video that'll actually explain this in a way that makes sense. Or you can send out the talking points or FAQ, which are going to be linked below. Obviously, you're welcome to call me, you're welcome to call Tina, call your managing broker. Don't let this overwhelm you. Just know that there's resources to explain what is actually happening and how we're going to move through this and how we're going to keep helping people buy and sell their homes. Remember, this isn't about us inherently. This is about the consumers. And the reason we are saying we appreciate the structure that we've been using is because it's best for the consumers. If you're concerned with how am I going to keep making money, you're off base. If you're concerned with how can we keep helping people accomplish their goals, the biggest goals that most of them are going to have, that's the right focal point, and let's make sure we're continuing to have those conversations. I'm here because I like helping people. I'm lucky to enjoy getting paid for what I do, but I do it because I think it's important first and foremost. And if we approach it that way, we're going to move through this and we're going to continue being able to help our clients. Thanks, guys. Be in touch if you have questions.